Hare Krishna. Today we'll be discussing Bhagavad-Gita from chapter 1, text 28 onwards, translation and explanations. O Krishna, my whole body is trembling and my hair is standing on end. My bow Gandhava is slipping from my hand and my skin is burning. There are two kinds of tremblings of the body and two kinds of standing of the hair on each an end. Such phenomena occurs either in a great spiritual ecstasy or out of a great fear under the material conditions. There is no fear in a transcendental realization. Arjuna's symptoms in this situation are out of material fear, namely loss of life. This is evident from other symptoms also. He became so impatient that his famous bow Gandhava was slipping from his hand, and because his heart was burning within him, he was feeling a burning sensations of the skin. All these are due to the material consumption of life. Text 30. I am now unable to stand here any longer. I am forgetting myself, and my mind is reeling. I foresee only evil, O killer of the Kasi demon, O Krishna. Due to his impatience, Arjuna was unable to stay on the battlefield, and he was forgetting himself on account of the weakness of his mind. Excessive attachment for material things put a man in a bewildering condition of existence. Such fearfulness and loss of mental equilibrium takes place in a persons who are too affected by material conditions. Arjuna envisioned only unhappiness in the battlefield. He would not be happy even by gaining victory over the opponent. The word nimitta is significant. When a man sees only frustration in his expectations, he thinks, why am I here? Everyone is interested in himself and his own welfare. No one is interested in the Supreme Self. Arjuna is supposed to show disregard for self-interest by submission to the will of Krishna, who is everyone's real self-interest, and therefore suffers material pains. Arjuna thought that his victory in the battle would only be cause of lamentation for him. Text 31, translation. I don't see how any good can come for killing my own kinsmen in the battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness. Without knowing that one's self-interest is in Vishnu or Krishna, conditioned souls are attracted by bodily relationships, hoping to be happy in such situations. Under delusion, they forget that Krishna is also the cause of material happiness. Arjuna appears to have been forgotten the moral codes of Kshatriya. It is said that two kinds of men, namely the Kshatriya who dies directly in front of the battlefield under Krishna personal orders, and the person in the renounced order of life who is absolutely devoted to a spiritual culture, are eligible to enter into a sun globe, which is also powerful and dazzling. Arjuna is reluctant even to kill his enemies, let alone his relatives. He thought that by killing his kinsmen, there would be no happiness in his life, and therefore he was not willing to fight, just as a person who does not feel hunger is not inclined to cook. He has now decided to go into the forest and live in a secluded life in frustration, but as a Kshatriya, he requires a kingdom for his subsistence, because the Kshatriyas can't engage themselves in any other occupation. But Arjuna has had no kingdom. Arjuna's sole opportunity for gaining a kingdom lay in fighting with his cousins and brothers and reclaiming the kingdom inherited from his father, which he does not like to do. Therefore he considers himself fit to go to the forest to live in a secluded life of frustration. Text 32 to 35, translation. O Govinda, of what avail to us two kingdoms of happiness or even life itself, when all those whom we may desire them are now arrayed in this battlefield? O Madhusudana, when a teacher, father, son, grandfather, material uncle, father-in-law, grandson, brother-in-law, and all relatives are ready to give their lives and properties and are standing before me, then why should I wish to kill them? Though I may survive, O maintainer of all creatures, I am not prepared to fight with them even in exchange for the three worlds, let alone this earth. Arjuna has addressed Lord Krishna as Govinda because Krishna is the object of all pleasures for cows and the senses. By using this significant word, Arjuna indicates that what will satisfy his senses. Although Govinda is not meant for satisfying our senses, if we try to satisfy the senses of Govinda, then automatically our senses are satisfied. Materially, everyone wants to satisfy his senses, and he wants God to be the order supplier of such satisfaction. The Lord will satisfy the senses of the living entities as much as they deserve, but not to the extent that they may covet. But when one takes the opposite way, namely, when one tries to satisfy the senses of Govinda without desiring to satisfy one's own senses, then by the grace of Govinda all desires of the living entities are satisfied. Arjuna's deep affection for community and family members is exhibited here partly due to his natural compassion for them. He is therefore not prepared to fight. Everyone wants to show his opulence to friends and relatives, but Arjuna fears that all his relatives and friends will be killed in the battlefield, and he will be unable to share his opulence after victory. This is a typical calculation of a material life. The transcendental life is, however, different. Since a devotee wants to satisfy the desires of the Lord, he can Lord willingly accept all kinds of opulences for the service of the Lord, and if the Lord is willing, he should not accept a farthing. Arjuna did not want to kill his relatives, and if there were any need to kill them, he desired that Krishna kill them personally. At this point, he did not know that Krishna has already killed them before their coming to the battlefield, that he was only become an instrument for Krishna. This fact is disclosed in the following chapters as a natural devotee of the Lord. Arjuna did not like the retaliate against his miscreant cousins and brothers, but it was the Lord's plan that they should be killed. The devotee of the Lord does not retaliate against the wrongdoer, but the Lord does not tolerate mischief done to the devotees by the miscreants. The Lord can excuse a person on his own account, but he excuses no one who has done harm to his devotees. Therefore, the Lord was determined to kill the miscreants, although Arjuna wanted to excuse them. 36th translation. Sin will overcome us if we slay such aggressions. Therefore, it is not proper for us to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra and our friends. What should we gain, O Krishna, husband of the goddess of the fortune, and how could we happily be killing our own kinsmen? According to the Vedic conjunctions, there are 6 kinds of aggressors. A poison giver, one who sets a fire to the house, one who attacks with the deadly weapons, one who plunders riches, one who occupies another's lands, and one who kidnaps a wife. Such aggressors are at once to be killed, and no sin is incurred by killing such aggressors. Such killing of aggressors is quite befitting for any ordinary man. But Arjuna was not an ordinary person. He was saintly by character, and therefore he wanted to deal with them in saintliness. This kind of saintliness, however, is not for Kshatriya. Although a responsible man in the administration of a state is required to be saintly, he should not be cowardly. For example, Lord Rama was so saint that the people were anxious to live in his kingdom, Ramarajya. But Lord Rama never showed any cowardice. Ravana was the aggressor against Rama because he kidnapped Rama's wife Sita. But Lord Rama gave him sufficient lessons unparalleled in the history of the world. In Arjuna's case, however, one should consider the special type of aggressors, namely his own grandfather, own teacher, friends, sons, grandsons, etc. Because of them, Arjuna thought that he should not take the severe steps necessary against ordinary aggressors. Besides that, saintly persons are advised to forgive. Such injunctions for saintly persons are most important than any political emergency. Arjuna considered that rather than kill his own kinsmen of political reasons, it would be better to forgive them on grounds of religion and saintly behavior. He did not therefore consider such killing profitable simply for the matter of temporarily bodily happiness. After all, kingdom and pleasures derived them are not permanent, so why should he risk his life and eternal salvation by killing his own kinsmen? Arjuna, addressing Krishna as a Madhava, or the husband of goddess of fortune, is also significant in this connection. He wanted to point out to Krishna that as a husband of goddess of fortune, he should not have to induce Arjuna to take up a matter which would ultimately bring about misfortune. Krishna, however, never brings misfortune to anyone, to say nothing of his devotees. Text 37 and 38. O Janardana, although these men, overtaken by greed, see no fault in killing one's family or quarreling with friends, why should we, with knowledge of the same, engage in these acts? A Kshatriya is not supposed to refuse to battle or a gamble when he was so invited to some rival party. Under such obligation, Arjuna could not refuse to fight because he was challenged by the party of Duryodhana. In this connection, Arjuna considered that the other party might be blind to the effects of such a challenge. Arjuna, however, could see the evil consequences and could not accept the challenge. Obligation is actually blinding when the effect is good. But when the effect is otherwise, then no one can be bound. Considering all these pros and cons, Arjuna decided not to fight. That ends the chapter 1, text 38 explanation.